Who is the most underrated running back in Dynasty football right now? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, everybody. I am Kate Magdziuk. You can follow me on Twitter at FFBallBlast. And of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow him on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. We have wrapped up our team-by-team breakdowns of everything you need to know. Dynasty buys, sells. We're helping you build the ultimate dynasty roster before all the action kicks off this year, Marcus. And we're going to be starting a new series. So guys, don't like give up on us yet. Now that you got all your team reviews, you're going to have to hit that follow button. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Dynasty. And don't forget to subscribe, leave those 5-star reviews so that everybody but your league mates can find our content and help us out a little bit. How's it going, Marcus? Happy Scott Fish Bowl Day to those who celebrate.
I mean, with how big the league is now, I think everybody in the world's basically celebrating, right? It's always a fun day. We were just talking about our strategy at picks 3 and 4, respectively. So it's a good day to be a fantasy football fan, Kate, because I feel like this is the official start of fantasy season, right? Once that Scott Fishbowl kicks off, dynasty drafts, rookie drafts, I'm sure are right around the corner for most people. Redraft leagues here starting in August. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think this is the first thing that like kind of makes you feel that little tingle in your gut. Like it, the season really is coming up. We're being awarded for all of our patience. But yeah, we're gonna kick off this next week here with a new series with Matt and Ryan. We're gonna be talking about the most underrated and overrated players in all of Dynasty football, breaking it down by position. So, Marcus, we're gonna start off with running backs, which who doesn't love a good running back discussion? Running backs are one of my favorite positions. I love those players with contact, and I mean, who better to make some tough contact than a running back? So, can you give me your first? I don't know. Should we start off
Let's be
positive
positive.
or
Let's be positive
negative?
and say, let's be positive. Let's go underrated. I would love to hear your first, your most underrated running back right now in dynasty leagues.
All right, this might surprise you because it's a player I don't talk about often, but I'm going with Kenneth Walker, who's
Mm.
currently being drafted in July's batch of Dynasty ADP over on Dynasty League Football as the RB18, which, for the prospect, for the situation that he's in, for the potential opportunity he's about to have, Marcus, that feels really, really low to me. I mean, looking at uh, Breese Hall, running back for the New York Jets, he's being drafted as the RB6. And I think there's a much smaller gap between these two than we'd ever think based on ADP at this point.
We like both
Ken,
of these guys. Just to be clear, we like Brees Hall and
yes.
Kenneth Walker a lot. And while I think the Jet situation's a little bit better, it's not that much better, Kate.
Yeah, I think the gap is much smaller than we'd be led to believe. Kenneth Walker coming out of school, Michigan State, 5'9", 211 pounds, was just such a phenomenal rusher. Like, just I think so many people were enamored by Brees Hall that they just kind of neglected my man Kenneth Walker, but he was the best rusher in this class without a doubt. Ranked first in yards after contact last season, first in missed tackles forced, first in carries of 15 or more yards. Like, this dude is elusive as all get out. And guess what, Marcus? He's got the speed, my man. He's got insane speed, ran a 4.38 at the 2022 NFL Combine. That's 98th percentile for running backs. And it's not like he's like this little chintzy sized dude. Like I said,
No,
he's
no.
5'11 or 5'9, 211 pounds. Like, he's a beefy man. And I think the opportunity here in Seattle is just super underrated. Marcus, we have Chris Carson, who's potentially at the end of his career. And if not, probably at the end of his career with the Seattle
Yeah.
Seahawks.
Yep.
Like, super unfortunate. You got Rashad Penny on a 1-year deal. Like, he's got draft capital. He's got everything that you need to know that the Seahawks could be invested in him. And we're just not really hyped on him. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the reasoning probably just falls in the quarterback position, but I don't think he was being even hyped up enough when we still had Russell Wilson under center here. But uh, I don't get it. Last year we were drafting Jonathan Taylor when we knew his quarterback was Carson Wentz. We drafted Javonte Williams when we knew his quarterback was Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock, who is now the quarterback, or probably the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. Like, I I I think we've seen with opportunity that these running backs can overcome things. And I mean, gosh, we our whole gripe for how long has been Pete Carroll's like refusal to throw the ball. I mean, what other running back besides Breese Hall has a pretty easy pathway to potentially walk out with his rookie season with 200 plus carries this
Yeah.
year? I think Kenneth Walker.
A couple things I want to add to that. So, first of all, Seattle had 343 rushing attempts by running backs last year. So, even if you factor in, let's say Rashad Penny gets 175 carries, which would be the most of his career with the Seahawks, there's still a lot of work that can be had for Kenneth Walker. So, he can have some value right away. But I think it's pretty clear that, like, by the end of the season and certainly going into next season, like, this is going to be Kenneth Walker's job, right? And it's a tricky quarterback situation because it's not very good. The offensive line isn't great, although they did use their first round pick on Charles Cross, a left tackle. They used a third round pick on Abraham Lucas. Like, they are making investments. And I know there's a lot of people out there that say, hey, don't invest in running backs with bad quarterbacks and bad offensive lines. I don't disagree, but at the same time, you can't have Najee Harris then ranked at number 3 as your third most valuable dynasty running back because the situation's not all that different, right? I don't think the supporting cast in Seattle is that much worse than it is in Pittsburgh. So if you're getting Kenneth Walker, who has home run speed, who I do think can catch the ball out of the backfield, even though he didn't do that a lot at Michigan State, at RB 18, yeah, okay, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, DeAndre Swift, another running back being drafted in the top 5 with, I mean, a pretty darn near similar situation. You can make the argument, obviously, for Swift and Harris that they've been more heavily utilized in the receiving game. Though the one thing Kenneth Walker does need to beef up on is like his pass blocking and
Mhm. Which will come.
his
It'll come.
that'll come. But I think as a pure rusher, there's no uh, I would take, if we're just looking face value at the rushing ability, and not looking at the complete package, I would take Kenneth Walker over Brees Hall here. But give me him at that value all day. Although I do want to give myself a brain fart. It's 8 a.m. Everybody. Russell Wilson was traded before Kenneth Walker was drafted. So just FYI, as soon as that came out of my mouth, I was like, guys, I need more coffee. So uh, Marcus, why don't you tell us about your most underrated candidate while I refuel on some coffee, much needed coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Before we do that, though, I'll tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball season. We've got golf going on, UFC. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Kate. For me, this one is actually pretty simple. I don't think it's all that hard. It's Aaron Jones, who I know he's 27 years old, and I know that he turns 28 here in December. And we just kind of kick people that turn 27, 28 out of the door. I don't know if you saw the Office meme from this weekend where the owner of Dunder Mifflin comes in and he's like, "Oh, who's this old geezer?" Michael Scott said, but doesn't matter. Aaron Jones, I think, has a fantastic shot to finish as a top 6 or 7 running back this year, just because he is going to get so much work in the passing game. We know that they love to use him in the red zone. He gets a so much volume in the passing game, 63 targets in each of the last 3 seasons. He's been over 1,200 yards in each of the last 3 seasons. And you can get him right now as RB 17. I just don't see a way, Kate, that he doesn't finish as a top 10 running back. They've got a financial commitment to him. They paid him last year, and he's attached to a good offensive line with Aaron Rodgers. Sign me up.
I think the ADP fall for Aaron Jones, just in general, has come from the emergence of AJ Dillon. But I think what we need to recognize is that, I mean, there are so many targets that are going to be available. And we always say targets are earned. I think there's like one player right now that's going to be earning targets from Aaron Rodgers based on how picky he is and how hard it is to earn his trust as an NFL quarterback. Him and Aaron Jones already have that connection. Aaron Jones ranked 7th in targets last year among running backs. We already know the safety net is there. He's had at least 11 RB2 or better weeks in each of the last 3 seasons. We know that super high upside is there. I think that this could be a really interesting year to have both of these guys on your team. I would feel good, having Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon in my lineup in the same team week to week. Give me that all day. And let me just say how heavily and heartily I agree with you here, Marcus. I think that out of any running back that's currently being drafted out of the top 15 in Dynasty ADP, I think that Aaron Jones definitely has the most potential to finish as the overall RB1 out of any of these running backs. Like,
Okay. 224 vacant targets from last year, just between Devontae Adams and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I mean, how many more can we expect from Aaron Jones? Let's say he averages 1 more target per game, which I don't think that's all that unrealistic, right? If 1 more target per
no.
game and he's averaging 80 targets and he continues to catch 75% of those targets, I mean, it would not shock me at all if he's catching 60 passes this year for 450 yards, and all of a sudden this is a 1,400-yard player again with double-digit touchdown. I would say floor, because he's scored, was it 40 touchdowns over the last 4 years. I just think if you're struggling at running back right now and you think your team's in a 2 or 3 year window, go out and trade for Aaron Jones, because you are going to love some of the weeks that he gives you this season.
What is the most you'd be willing to give up for Aaron Jones right now? Let's talk maybe just a pure picks package, and then if you could give me one example of like an actual player trade, just so we kind of know what we're working with.
Yeah, in terms of players, like the running backs being ranked ahead of him, Alvin Kamara, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, Travis Etienne, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry. I think all those guys, except for maybe Derrick Henry, I would flip for Aaron Jones straight up. In terms of picks, I would give up a first-round pick plus something else to go get him. In Dynasty, in redraft, this is the one player that I'm not leaving my drafts without, because I can see him having such a big season this year with the Packers and with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm all in.
All right. There you go. So go buy Kenneth Walker, buy Aaron Jones. And actually, if those are your 2 running backs and you don't have to pay top 15 prices for either of those guys,
You're in good shape.
don't hate it. Who's your most overrated player when it comes to the running back position?
All right, Marcus, I hate to double dip because we just talked about this guy last week, but I still think the concept stands, and this is how badly I want to drive this home here. I'm going to say that Cam Akers
Yes.
is
Yes.
the most overrated running back currently in all of Dynasty football. I RB13 last month, and I can't understand that valuation given the concerns, given the most recent performance that we've seen. I mean, we already talked about just how awful he was in the postseason. I've already talked about the fact that over his entire career, he has been less efficient and most metrics against Darrell Henderson. Um, I already talked about the fact I wasn't a huge fan of his coming out of school, but for him to be ranked this highly among players that I think have been much more proven, like Derrick Henry being drafted behind Cam Akers. I think that's crazy. Travis Etienne, I'm also going to take over Cam Akers. He's being drafted right around Dalvin Cook. Um, it's a lot of names that I think have already proven to us that they are uh, studs, and then it's Cam Akers. And I can't like, can you help me understand the community's valuation of him? Because I can't. Marcus, help me.
No, I can't, because this is one of mine as well. We've seen like a 2-week stretch from him that's been really good. Other than that, it's been at replaceable running back level, and now you're talking about somebody going into year 3 behind a coach that can be kind of fickle when it comes to running backs, and it's not like that room is completely devoid of talent, or void of talent, because we like Darrell Henderson quite a bit. Cam Akers, I know he was coming off the Achilles injury in the playoffs, but he looked like he was running with 2 pianos on his back. I I I
I've
don't get it.
never heard that.
I I
Uh,
don't get it. This is the one that it makes 0 sense to me, Kate.
and let's go back. I mean, we keep talking about like the playoff performance and his return from the Achilles. Like, we don't know if he's going to be the same player here, but even looking back in 2020 when he had his like big breakout, Marcus never exceeded RB10, if you can believe that. In any of those games to close out that 2020 season where he was having just 20 plus carry games. He had 3 games of 21 or more carries. And in those games, never exceeded RB10.
Hmm.
That's kind of bonkers to me. Like, he's been inefficient overall, even when healthy. And I don't know, in this offense where, I think players, especially at the running back position, are pretty expendable because of the emphasis on the pass, because of Cooper Kupp, and because of the versatility they have with their other playmakers. Cam Akers at this cost, like, I will do anything to get him off of my roster. But unfortunately, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan, so I didn't have enough shares. And I don't now I'm sad because I don't have any shares to sell. But
Yeah, this is one I just don't get. I don't understand why he's that high. There's
this is
absolute
mental. This is the mental gymnastics aspect of dynasty fantasy football. And this is us falling in love with players as opposed to making true analysis, I
yeah,
think. And I
it doesn't make any sense to me. It's just he is so overvalued compared to what he's done so far. And even if you're projecting forward a little bit, like, he's going to need to be a 1,200-yard player to even justify that ADP. And I mean, he's never done that before. He's never been even close to that before. So we'll see. I got one more guy that I want to talk about, Kate, before we head out. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Rock Auto. With the ever increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock up on all the parts you need. But Rock Auto has everything from engine control modules and brake parts, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. Best of all, prices at rockauto.com are always reliably low. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com today. All right, one more player that I want your thoughts on, and it's Javonte Williams here at RB5. He's actually gone down a little bit over the course of the summer, which, I mean, you know that I've been kind of harping on this for a while now, but I just don't understand it because this is a team that brought back Melvin Gordon. They obviously trust Melvin Gordon a lot. Um, it's not like Javonte Williams didn't get a lot of touches last year. He had 246 touches. I mean, Melvin Gordon had 231 touches. I just don't see what the upside is here. I think that they want to be in a committee. I don't see Javonte getting a whole lot more work in the passing game. Kate, do you know that during Russell Wilson's career with the Seahawks, so from 2012 to 2021, he never had a running back catch more than 37 passes in a season, and that was Marshawn Lynch in 2014. Like, he just doesn't throw the ball to running backs at all. So is all of a sudden is Javonte Williams going to go from 43 catches to 60 catches? I highly doubt that, especially with Melvin Gordon being a competent third down back as well. I just don't understand why he's being ranked as a top 5 dynasty running back when there's other guys like Austin Eckler and Dalvin Cook, who I just think we've seen their upside. We know they're going to be in really good offenses, and I would just rather have them.
Yeah, and I think again, this is the dynasty community being in love with the player prospect, with the player himself. Like i- he is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL at this current moment. But the pricing does not necessarily reflect the situation for me. I think this is a bit of like forward thinking. Um, but, like, the cards have been written on the or the what's it called? The blank has been written on the wall. What is the phrase?
We're
Like,
not good
why
at phrases.
again, coffee yeah, I'm not good at phrases, I'm better at fantasy football. And, like, just looking at, what the team has done with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon saw 9 more red zone carries
Yeah.
last season than Javonte Williams. He saw 1 more carry than Javonte Williams inside the 5. Uh, was slightly less efficient in terms of his, like, avoided tackle rate and yards after contact rate. But yards per attempt, he was actually, slightly more efficient than Javonte
Mhm.
Williams. Saw the same exact number of carries, 203. You literally cannot perfect a
Nope.
split like that, any better, and, outranked him in terms of fantasy points per snap, fantasy points per touch. Like, they don't have any reason not to keep Melvin Gordon involved.
Because he's
Um,
good, right? Like, that's the thing
he's
is, like, Melvin's
good.
good a good player, and it just makes the most real life sense to use both of these guys, right? Keep them fresh as the season goes along. Don't put a million miles on these guys' body, and to me, it feels like there's gonna be, let's say, 450 touches between these 2 guys, right? Give, Javonte Williams 250 and give the other one 200, 225. That seems like the kind of split that we're going to get and what we got last year. That's why I just don't see, like, Javonte Williams would have to be so much more efficient and score so many more touchdowns to justify where he's being drafted at.
And that's not even really kind of addressing the acquisition of Russell Wilson. Like, I don't think they acquired Russell Wilson to continue being a run based offense. Um, I think they acquired Russell Wilson to use him as a passer. And I think Russell Wilson went to the Denver Broncos with the hope that they'd utilize him as a passer so they can hashtag let Russ cook with the receiving core, with the weapons that they have there, even the running backs who are both excellent receivers. I think this is going to be the Russell Wilson show. And is that complementary to scoring in the run game? Absolutely, because that can translate to goal line carries. It translates to work in the red zone.
Mhm.
But I just don't think that the valuation here has caught up with situation. I think if you're taking Javonte Williams at RB5, you are banking on a Melvin Gordon injury that will keep him out of the lineup rest of the year. I think you're banking on the future of Javonte Williams, which is not a bad thing. You should always be forward thinking. It is dynasty football, but I don't want to pay top end price because, again, how much higher can his ADP
That's
get?
exactly right. It's just that he's already priced out basically at the top of his value. There's just
Yes,
not a lot of room to grow for him. So I would rather, again, I just want to be clear. I like Javonte Williams, the player. I thought
I
he was a really
love
good.
Javonte
Yeah,
Williams.
it's just if Javonte Williams was being ranked as like RB9 right now, Kate, we'd be a lot more excited about him, right? We might even call him an underrated player. It's just RB5 is a little expensive. So if you can flip him for Dalvin Cook and something else, I'm doing it. If you can flip him for Austin Eckler and something else, I'm doing that as well.
Yeah, I think all of that makes sense. Or maybe really hit this home. Um, I don't know how you would feel about this level of risk, but maybe flip him for, I don't know, like a Kenneth Walker plus a giant massive load of picks. I think Kenneth Walker, he's not Javonte Williams. He's not proven as a receiver quite as much as Javonte Williams, but I do think both have similar levels of elusiveness and that kind of quality to their game. I don't know.
How about Javonte Williams for Aaron Jones and Kenneth Walker? How about that for a trade?
Oh my god. Holy grail
There,
of a trade right there.
there you go. There you go. All right, that is it
We
for
just
today's
saved your
show.
seasons, guys. We
Yeah,
just
there you
saved.
go. We want to thank you guys for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen today. Now make your second listen to Locked On NFL podcast. Our national NFL experts and insiders keep fans dialed in with the biggest stories and the latest news from around the league, because an offseason doesn't equal a break in the action. We also want to encourage you guys to go check out the Scott Fish Bowl. They're doing absolutely fantastic stuff over there. Um, you guys are going to be flooded with Scott Fish Bowl tweets over the next 2 weeks. It's
Yes.
always a really good time. So follow Kate's team, follow my team, Matt and Ryan. Ryan has done a great job setting up this awesome tournament.
Yes,
So go
Ryan
check
is
that.
so involved, and, I kind of, for a second forgot that he was our co-host here, but, oh my god, such kudos to Ryan, who's
Yes,
worked so closely with Scott over the years to make sure this happens and is so successful every single year, so shout out to my co-host. Oh,
yes.
what a guy.
Yes, Ryan's the best. Follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. You can follow Kate at FF Ball Blast. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Matt and Ryan will be back tomorrow to talk about the most overrated and underrated wide receivers in Dynasty League football. We'll be back on Thursday to talk some tight ends. We'll see you guys then.